Reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network.
You're listening to The Happy Hearthstone. This show is brought to you by Doghouse Systems, who make some of the most powerful gaming PCs around and have awesome customer service from my own experience. Use the coupon code MMOReporter at doghousesystems.com and get a free 120GB SSD on top of the 1TB hard drive that comes with your system. By Audible, hands down the best audiobook service in the entire universe. Seriously, if you have any sort of commute or just prefer to listen to your books, you've got to check Audible out. Go to audibletrial.com/MMOReporter and get a free 1-month trial and a free audiobook. If you'd like to directly support this show and the nice people who make it, you can find more information at gamediplomat.com/donate. Hello and welcome to episode 52 of the Happy Hearthstone podcast, the longest running Hearthstone podcast in the history of space and time and cards. I'm your host, Josh Augustine, and this week I am joined by Ryan. Hello, Ryan.
Hey, Josh. Happy to be here.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here too. I'm happy Hearthstone to be here. I don't know. I feel like I should try and work that pun in every single episode. It's never going to get old, right?
I think the great philosopher Ren and Stimpy once said, happy, happy, joy, joy.
That's true. Wow. I guess I just want to believe I'm following in their fine footsteps.
Exactly.
Somewhere I believe they're looking down on us right now and just smiling. They're happy with what we're doing.
No doubt.
I can't imagine they would actually be big Hearthstone players if Hearthstone was big when they were around. They might obsessively collect cards.
Yeah, they were probably original Magic players.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so Ryan, who are you? Why are you here?
All right, well, I'm a lifelong PC gamer, and I actually played Magic during the original release.
What? That was like 990? Is that right?
Well, it wasn't like the beta. It was when they were first available in stores. I was in junior high, and me and my friends, went to the comics shop and got cards, and we had no idea how to play because, Magic's we had that. I actually still have the little original rule book that's like, maybe like 3 by 2 inches, something like that.
Yeah, not quite enough to explain the intricacies of a card game.
Yeah, so I mean, we played, but it wasn't like we not like tournaments or anything like that. But I've been playing Hearthstone since the fall of 2013. I lost my job and couldn't afford to spend money on real packs, and so I kind of found out that if you enjoy Arena, it's kind of the best way to build your collection for free. And I started listening to the Happy Hearthstone last summer, and earlier this year you talked about wanting to do an Arena guide, and I emailed you, and you agreed to let me do it.
I corroborate your story. It is approved. I will sign a statement to it. That is exactly what happened. Also, a few episodes back, we had someone leave a comment on iTunes saying that if we could help them get to a certain rank in Arena, I can't remember what it was.
It was 12 wins.
12
or I think
wins.
I thought it was if you got 12 wins.
Oh,
or was it
I
them?
got 12
I can't.
wins?
It was something like that. It was one of the two.
Okay. Either way, there was money on the line because they said they're going to make a donation if either we got them to 12 wins or maybe I got 12 wins. I'm not sure which one of those is more likely. I capped out at 11 wins. I have not been able to hit 12 yet, but maybe someday.
It's doable. It's hard and definitely takes some luck, but hopefully we can help people out today, make it happen. Realize the dream.
Yeah, the dream. The 12-0 dream.
Yeah. So,
Ryan, if you're going to be telling people about Arena, have you hit the 12-0 dream?
I have hit the 12-0 dream. I don't know if this is sad or just says how much of a nerd I am. It's first of all, just getting 12 wins is an amazing feeling, and the 12-0 dream is unreal. It's quite the adrenaline high on the last couple opponents.
It's got to be terrifying with every card you play.
It's almost when you get to that rank, you know your deck so well, and it becomes very intuitive, and you know what your deck can do, and you know the kind of decks you're up against, and you have to make calls, but I don't know. I would just say I was in the zone. I wasn't going to lose.
Okay, nice. You weren't going to let it happen.
No.
So there you go. There's your first tip for Arena, guys. Don't let yourself lose. Don't let it happen. Just don't. So, have you hit 12 wins multiple times and only 12-0 once? Are you
Yeah.
just... What? So you're
12
just sitting on all these piles of 12 wins while the rest of us are scraping by at 11.
Yeah, I mean, it has. I want to say I've hit 12 6 or 7 times. I really should have counted before the show, but yeah, the 12-0 was only once. The dream, I know, probably a lot of people have done more, but I consider I usually would only play arenas on the weekends, yeah, so I'm not playing arena all the time.
Well, I can safely say I've never met anybody that has 12 wins under their belt. So I would not downplay that at all. That is awesome.
Thank you.
So, do you remember what classes you're playing? I just have to know now.
I do, and this is one of the reasons why I'm kind of especially proud of some of the 12 wins. The 12-0 was, of course, a mage, but it wasn't a ridiculous, 5 Flame Strike deck. It was actually, I would consider it a subpar mage deck, but I played it well enough. I've hit 12 wins with Rogue, Warrior, and I think that's actually it. I think Rogue, Warrior, and Mage.
Wow.
Paladin?
Okay.
No, Hunter. Hunter of all the classes. Hunter. That was the other
Face
one.
Hunter or Control Hunter?
Just like Tempo Hunter.
Okay.
That's one of the big tips I can give at this point right now is tempo is kind of king in arena.
So I'm just going to keep quizzing you because I just want to know, right?
Sure.
With these decks, because people always talk about how if you get 3 legendaries or whatever you can do. So in all your 12-0 wins, did you feel like you had more legendaries or more epics than normal?
No, actually not. A lot of times the decks where I've had, say, Sneasel Shredder or Ragnaros, I haven't really won with legendaries. It really is, the key is tempo cards you can play every turn, and good removal spells. And then, of course, luck. But no, it's not. It's really more. Some of them are very surprising too, in terms of you wouldn't if you looked at the deck, you'd say no way that's a 12-win deck. I'm actually looking at my 12-0 deck right now, and I have a Nomergon infantry in it.
Wow!
And I got 12-0 with Nomergon infantry in my deck. So it's really about playing and extracting maximum value from your cards rather than just because you have some really good legend. I mean, granted, if you get Deathwinged, that sucks. That's definitely, I've had Deathwing losses where they play Deathwing and they win, but they don't always get to turn 10.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of the great thing about Arena, right? Is that it's not necessarily about the cards that you get. Of course, you have to make good choices, but it really is about making good choices while you play. It feels much more even than Constructed does.
Yes, it can. Sometimes, of course, you get hard countered. The other person has an amazing deck, and there's probably nothing you could do about it. But I definitely prefer the variety, seeing cards like Nomergon Infantry or I don't know, even the Kobold Geomancer. There's cards that you never see in Constructed that sometimes you have to pick an arena, and it's when you play against someone that plays a card like that, you're like, wow, that was the best out of 3. What were the other 2?
Yeah. And then it's cool to see interesting combos where they make Geobald or Cobalt Geomancer work, even though it's not necessarily efficient, but they got 2 inefficient cards that happen to work together.
Exactly. Yeah. That's really the key, is extracting efficiency out of cards that you shouldn't be able to, but you find a way.
Very cool. So, 10 minutes into this show, I guess we should talk about why we're happy before we go ahead and get too much farther into Arena. I'm excited because I could talk about Arena all day, so this is going to be a super fun episode, I think. I'll go ahead and start. Today was a delightfully dreary day where I live. It was raining all day. I didn't have to go out into it. Stayed home, did some writing, hung out with the family. It's just a really nice, quiet day. That's why I'm happy. What about you, Ryan?
Well, I have to say that I think this is a sign of end times, because I know you live in San Diego, and it's July and it's raining. I was born in San Diego, so I know what the weather's like there. I lived through the drought.
Yeah.
I live in Portland, Oregon, and it was 97 degrees here today.
What? We've just flipped.
I know.
We swapped our weather.
It's insane. But I'm happy because I have a Heroes of the Storm team. My role, I am a tactician, the analyst, the shot caller, and all-around big baller.
I hope that's on your business card.
I actually put it on my ESL profile.
Awesome. So first of all, you're going to have to break this down for me. What does it mean you have a Heroes of the Storm team? Because I play with friends. Is that like what you mean?
So I was recruited by a gentleman who is a guild leader in WoW, and he wanted to start a team in Heroes of the Storm, and I met up with him just through the A Move chat channel, the Into the Nexus. Shout out to those guys. And he asked me to be on his team, and we got other people just kind of through the grapevine, and we're practicing, and we're trying to compete in tournaments and actually place in the BlizzCon Opens this summer.
Wow. Okay. So you actually have like practices and like roles.
Yep. Yep. It's a second job.
Yeah, I believe it. Like we were talking before the show, like the closest thing I think I've experienced is like a raid guild in an MMO. Is that kind of what this is like?
Yeah, it's very similar. It's similar to that on a much smaller scale, where you have the defined roles. Like I'm the tank, I'm also the shot caller and the tactician. So I'm coming up with the strategies. But then we have someone who plays dedicated healer, dedicated damage, dedicated specialists.
Interesting. Okay, so I got to know because I've been getting super into Heroes of the Storm lately. Who are your heroes? Who are your favorites?
Well, my favorite is Falstad. I actually have Master Skin Falstad.
Oh, nice.
I love him. The mobility is so good, and he's a surprisingly strong duelist. People don't expect to lose to Falstad, and then they do. In my role as a team, I loved Anubarak before he kind of got the recent nerf. He's not as strong. So Muradin is definitely my top tank. And I learned Johanna because she's so good. I don't particularly enjoy her. I prefer Muradin over Johanna.
Yeah. Muradin, man, when you go to, I forget what they call it, but stone form or whatever.
Oh, Avatar.
Yeah. Avatar. Yeah.
Yeah,
that is
amazing.
good fun. So, real fast. Sorry, people listening that only want Hearthstone news, but since Ryan, since you're on like, can I call you semi-pro team?
We're amateur. We're an amateur team.
Amateur. An aspiring pro team.
Yeah, that's the dream.
Boom. All right. I just want to lend some credence to your advice when I ask you here. With Muradin, I usually go like stun proc build. Is that the way to go, or what do you normally build just kind of in general?
On the Stormbolt?
Yeah.
So what I'm kind of taking, it of course depends who you're playing against. If you're playing against an auto attack heavy team like an Illidan or a Butcher, if you take the debuff at level 1 on your I'm blanking on the talent name. It's your AoE slam. I feel like the worst Muradin player.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because it's the same name that Warrior ability is in WoW.
I know. I feel like it's not Reverberation. I think is one of the talents for it. Storm. Because it's Stormbolt and God, I sound like an idiot. I can't remember. But basically, the debuff on that is huge, and then you can take the next level for it to basically explode again after a couple seconds.
Yeah.
But I definitely take the piercing on the Stormbolt because being able to stun 2 targets is amazing.
Yeah. Okay, dude. I got my post-it note here for next time I play Heroes of the Storm. All right, cool. I'm good. We're back to Hearthstone, I promise. Well, that's awesome. So I think you had a game today, right? Did you win?
Enemy team was a no-show, so by default we got our first. This is actually our first win. We haven't been playing together very long. Our first win was a forfeit.
I'm pretty sure they were just terrified to face you. They probably like saw you in scrims and were like, "We can't even face these guys."
They saw that we came in 18th in our tournament last week. And they're like, no, we're not playing that.
Yeah. Well, cool. Hey, a win is a win. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about some news before we dive into our big topic for the week. So the Tavern Brawl this week was random decks. I can't remember what it was called, but you picked the class and the deck was totally random. What'd you think? Have you played it much?
I did. I'm kind of using Tavern Brawl now to clear my quests because I just don't have a whole lot of time, unfortunately, to play Hearthstone with my Heroes team. But yeah, Encounter at the Crossroads, I believe what it's called.
That's what it is.
But yeah, I love it. It's similar to playing Arena in that you end up with suboptimal cards, and sometimes your opponent has really good cards, and sometimes you do, and sometimes it's just kind of a toss up.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I always play with my buddy at work, and so we started playing the day it came out. And it's weird because sometimes it feels like sometimes your deck is just so much better than theirs. Like it's very clear like who's gonna win, essentially.
Definitely.
But it's really cool seeing those cards, like you said, that you don't normally see. Like I'm trying to even look up the name now because I can't. Oh, here it is, Iron Juggernaut.
On the Warrior
Legendary. Yeah. So my buddy got that. I forgot that this card was even a thing because I'd looked at it at the pre-Goblins versus Gnome, but I've never actually seen anyone ever play it. Just to remind people what that is, it's a 6-cost mech. It's a 6/5, so a little underpowered, but Battlecry, shuffle a mine into your opponent's deck when it's drawn, so it's a card that it goes into my deck when he plays it. It deals 10 damage to me, which was crazy. Like, as soon as this dropped on the board, it's fun to see it and just be like, oh yeah, this is totally a thing. I totally forgot about it. And then like 2 turns later, I draw the mine. It explodes for 10 damage. And it's like, what? It's so cool. And he was laughing. And there's just a lot of really fun moments in this Tavern Brawl.
Yeah, I think for pure fun, the Tavern Brawl definitely has added a lot of just that kind of playing versus your friends or even playing against strangers, random enjoyment back into the game that the grind of the ladder can really kind of just grind it right out of you.
Yeah, it definitely can. Although if I get Hemet Nessingwary one more time in my Tavern Brawl deck, I'm just gonna, I don't know.
Guess which legendary I opened this week from this exact Tavern Brawl.
Oh no, Hemet Nessingwary?
Hemet freaking Nessingwary. Oh my gosh.
If it makes you feel any better, so I got Alexstrasza, which was good, but my next 3 legendaries were Lorewalker Cho, Golden Lorewalker Cho, and then Hemet Nessingwary. Like, I don't know what it is, but I cannot get a good legendary.
That's so painful.
Yeah. So I've been crafting enough legendaries to stay afloat, but man, I am I really want a Vol'jin just because I love Vol'jin, just as like a character in general, but no.
His intro music, I think, is some of the best intro music in the game when he comes in, those drums playing.
Oh, I don't think I've actually heard it.
It's look it up. It's amazing.
Okay, awesome.
It's very tribal.
Nice. I could dig that. I usually played Trolls in WoW, so I love that music. Cool. All right, so the next big news we should talk about, and I'm just going to say it's the Argent Tournament announcement, because they haven't said it's the Argent Tournament, but like
you're right.
All the hints point to it. Everybody kind of assumes that it is. They're making a final announcement July 22nd, so that's next Wednesday, probably a few days after this episode's available. It's going to be in San Francisco. They're actually doing like a full event out on Folsom Street, which is, I mean, this is cool. I mean, is this going to be more than an adventure? Did they do this sort of thing for the past adventures? I couldn't remember.
I feel like this is going to be an expansion. I don't think it's going to be an adventure.
Okay.
I think it's going to be over 100 new cards.
Okay, that'd be awesome.
Potentially new mechanics with some of the stuff they've been teasing, with mounts or maybe other equippable things.
Mounts? What does that mean? Are you talking about like cards mounting on top of other cards and like attacking together?
Possibly.
What? This is blowing my mind right now, Ryan.
You hadn't heard this
No.
This idea? Yeah, that's kind of something people are kicking around with the mounts, or maybe they'll. Yeah, I have to admit I am not a World of Warcraft person. I played the original Warcrafts, the RTSs.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not actually familiar with the Argent Tournament other than what I've heard other people talk about. But I would almost bet money that it's going to be an actual expansion, not a adventure.
Yeah, that would make... Man, I want it to be both. I don't know if that's bad of me, but like, because I want an expansion, but the Argent Tournament was such like an iconic PvE thing, and it feels so natural because in WoW it was all about repeating these dailies and fighting your way through the tournament, where it's like that feels like perfect for like a gauntlet sort of adventure or something like that. I'm hoping for both. There, I'm dreaming big, Ryan. You can't stop me.
The other thing is maybe it's some kind of tournament mode on top of, they gave us the Tavern Brawl for the casuals. Maybe they'll give us a tournament mode for the hardcore.
What?
I know.
Madness.
I'm going.
You
going
dream
out
too
there.
big, Ryan. I'm going the other way. You dream too big. If you're listening to this before Wednesday, Blizzard's going to be live streaming it on their Twitch channel. You can just look up Hearthstone on Twitch. I'm sure you can find it. It's going to be at 2:30 p.m. West Coast North America time. So adjust accordingly. If you happen to live in the San Francisco area, the event is actually open to the public, which I would highly recommend going. I mean, they're bringing in streamers like Trump and Amaz and Firebat, who won the Hearthstone World Championship at BlizzCon last year. Then all the developers and stuff are going to be there. So, I mean, it would be so cool to be there in person. So if you're anywhere in the Bay Area, the doors open at 2. I highly recommend going and letting us know what you see there. Cool. All right, Ryan. Let's talk about the arena, because that's what we're talking about. Not this Argent tournament sort of arena, but the real arena that we have right now, which is kind of the limited mode, to use Magic terms. Do you just want to kind of start off by giving a rundown? What is arena?
Sure. Arena is fundamentally different from constructed play in that you don't build your deck from your personal collection, but you get to choose cards one at a time from 3 options drawn from the entire card pool, which means that even if you don't have the card, you can still play it. And because of this, you'll encounter cards not commonly played in constructed.
Yeah, because sometimes they give you 3 options, and like we kind of alluded to earlier, and you don't like any of those options. Like I wouldn't run any of these cards, but you have to pick one. And
exactly.
And in Magic and stuff, you can draft a bunch of cards, then throw some aside, and then not put them in your deck. But in Hearthstone, whatever you pick, it's going to be in your deck, and you can draw it. So there's a lot of fun. I say fun, but it can sometimes be frustrating too. But fun situations where you just get a random Murloc card, and that Murloc is showing up, and he's not going to buff any other Murlocs because they don't exist in your deck, but he's there.
Yeah, that hurts.
So I actually have a quick question about this, because you mentioned it's all the cards. Do you know if they ever said, like, is it split 50-50 with like original and gnomes versus goblins, or is it weighted one way or the other?
I believe it's just the picks are just based on the rarity of the card, and so
okay.
I believe that I've never actually heard, but it would seem that there's an equal chance of any card from any rarity being in your selections.
Okay, cool. I have heard also that class cards are slightly more common. Do you know if that's true?
I have heard that as well.
Okay. There you go. An urban legend may or may not be true. Hey, if you're going to the event next Wednesday and see a developer, maybe ask him. Get us some answers. Investigative reporting. And so I'll kind of add on here. Arena is kind of special, right? And this is why we're talking about it as a separate topic. Because it's not constructed, because you don't always know what cards you're going to get, because you're kind of choosing different cards, just the strategies and tactics are different there, right? You're not facing cards that have, or decks that have, hopefully, amazing combos. You're not facing decks that have, the perfect removal spells and the perfect balance of spells and minions. Sometimes you just have to kind of make it up as you go more.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think in general, you mentioned here it leads to like a slower game, because to pull off fast wins, you normally need a deck that's extremely focused. That's like, okay, all my guys are charge, low-cost minions, right? That's how you're going to end a game early. But you just can't really do that in constructed, so it tends to be a kind of a slower pace.
Yeah, it can happen, but it's a lot more unlikely to end up with synergies that will end the game quickly.
Yeah,
it is possible, but it's less likely.
Super rare, yeah. And every now and then, though, I mean, if you're playing it as many times as Ryan has, I mean, sometimes you're going to build a deck that has that sort of synergy, right?
sometimes you end up with a deck in Arena that you wish you could take on the ladder because
Yeah.
you would destroy the ladder with your, 4 consecrations or, whatever crazy removal or.
Yeah. So
I think
I'm
one
actually-
time. Oh, sorry.
You go.
I was just gonna say. I think one time I lost to a paladin that had 5 True Silver champions,
Oh
which
my goodness.
basically made it everything I put on the board died.
Yeah, and then
it was
he's healing up.
It was pretty painful. Those games happen where you're like, when you look back at it, you're like, well, he had 5 True Silver champions. That's the game.
Yeah. I'm actually really happy with my Paladin deck I have right now. I'm kind of scared to keep playing. I'm at 3-0 right now. But I have 2 Consecrates, 2 True Silver Champions, 4 Guardians of the Kings.
What?
Yeah, so it's like when we get to late game, dude, I'm just going to be dropping bodies and healing like crazy. And then up front, I have I have all the 2/2s where give others Divine Shield, the mech that has Divine Shield itself. Like, I just got some really good cards. I'm like scared to play it because I don't want to screw it up. This could be my one chance to get 12 wins. But anyways, so that's why I'm actually, I also thought, you know what? I'm going to wait till we have this episode so I can learn some more tips and then maybe not screw it up when I go back out there. So Ryan, you put together, let's see, how many tips? You put together 8 big tips, essentially, with lots of details in between. So we're just going to go down all 8 of them. And the goal is that if you're new to Arena, hey, you should learn a lot of stuff right now. If you're kind of veteran in Arena, this is a good reminder of some stuff. And there's actually a lot of small details too that I think were really useful. They'll hopefully just help you out. So without further ado, Ryan, you want to jump into the first one?
Sure. Tip number 1, am I ready for Arena? Basically, you need to get all your classes to level 10, because if you don't have a basic understanding of the classes, you will be surprised by your opponent's play, and you're going to play into board clears like Consecration at turn 4 or Flame Strike at turn 7.
Yeah, so here, just to make sure, you're not saying like technically you don't have to have all classes to 10.
No, that's just my recommendation, because I mean, I know when I first started playing Arena, I hadn't necessarily played all the classes yet, and so I didn't know all the spells that the classes had. So like when I played against a rogue, I didn't know about Eviscerate or Backstab or Fan of Knives, things like that all of a sudden you're like, what the heck is going on? And if that happens to you in Arena, you're probably going to lose.
Yeah, it's just a really good way just to keep in mind what the threats are, right? Because the best way I've found to learn about like how to play against classes is to play as it and realize and figure out what you hate people doing, right? So when you're playing as priest, you're like, man, I hate when people are playing these 4 attack minions because you have 2 spells, right? One does higher, one does lower, but you can't hit the 4 attack minions. And so when you're playing against priest in the arena, suddenly you're like, oh, I have this Chillwind Yeti in my hand. I'm going to throw that guy down because he'll be safe, I know.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Very cool. All right. Well, all right. So I passed that test, Ryan. What else do I need to be ready for Arena?
Okay, so this is kind of weighing the value of Arena, and unfortunately, I consider this unfortunately. This is kind of like the same as Blizzard not giving us more deck slots, apparently letting us pick between a classic or a GVG pack as a reward is too complicated. So right now, Arena currently only offers GVG packs as a reward. So buying classic packs is better. I consider it better right now if your goal is to build decks for Constructed, because buying packs is only 100 gold and buying the Arena is 150 gold.
And is that because you're more likely to get duplicates in Gnome versus Goblin packs?
Yeah, if you play in the Goblins versus Gnomes, it's a smaller card pool, so you're going to fill it up a lot quicker. And if you look at a lot of the top tier, what are called net decks, the cards are actually like kind of disproportionately. Depending on the deck, classic cards. Like a lot of the decks require strong classic cards, or things like Naxxramas, which you don't get those rewards in Arena. Yeah,
it seems like every deck kind of has a mech variant, every class has a mech variant, and those use a ton of Goblins versus Gnome cards, but other than that, they're pretty not nearly as common.
Yeah, But having said that, if your classic collection is pretty fleshed out, I consider Arena a better value because for only 50 more gold, you have a chance to earn even more gold, dust, cards, and even an extra pack. So you would be paying 150 gold, and you could potentially end up with 2 packs.
Yeah, but that's only if you get crazy high, right?
That is if you get crazy high, but
Okay.
that's kind of the point of this right now is like we're going to try to help you get to there.
Okay.
Because like you were saying, crazy high, if you get to 7 wins, it gives at least 150 gold, which is what's known as infinite arena because you've paid for the cost of admission. 3 to 5 wins is more or less the break-even point because it's going to give you a pack plus the 50 gold back that you already paid.
Okay, so at that point, you're getting just as much value as buying the pack.
Exactly. You've spent time, and so this is, again, like, do you consider Arena fun? If you don't like Arena, then don't play Arena. There's no point. I love Arena because you get all these crazy cards that you don't see in Constructed, and the games are just, to me, they're more interesting. When you go on the ladder, you know what you see the class. They play 1 or 2 cards. You know their whole deck list at this point.
Yep. Okay. Very cool. So I think I'm ready to go in because I really like Arena. I have to take it in doses because sometimes it stresses me out. But so I really like having like just one Arena kind of deck running in the background. So every now and then I can just, I'll log in and play a game. That's cool. So I'm in. I'm ready for Arena. What do I do next?
All right. Tip number 2. Choose your hero. I suggest you pick your most comfortable class. If you've played a lot of Hunter and you like Hunter, then play Hunter. Having said that, the nature of the hero powers and the class cards, which we've already alluded to, seem to come up at a higher rate, makes it so that right now, Mage, Paladin, Priest are probably the top. I mean, it depends who you talk to, and of course it depends on your draft, but if you like Mage, if you can pick Mage, you should probably pick Mage.
Yeah, it's just generally considered primarily because it has all the removal spells, right? And removal is kind of at a premium in Arena, and Mage is just deleting dudes left and right.
And they're so efficient. They're all costed way below their value. So that's really why, because compared to, like, say, Paladin has the Hammer of Justice.
Yeah.
Which is 4 mana for 3 damage. And you draw a card. So, I mean, that's good. But Arena really is a board control game. Mage can do the same thing for 2 mana.
Yeah.
Granted, it doesn't draw a card. But so, yeah, having said that, all classes are viable with a decent draft and good play. And just to make the point, I have 12 wins with Warrior, Rogue, Hunter, and of course Mage. But people consider Warrior one of the worst, actually the worst Arena class. I've got 12 wins with it twice. Rogue is surprisingly good. And Hunter is probably considered the second worst. But if you get a good draft and you play it right, you can get 12 wins.
Yeah, I generally also, Paladin is usually my go-to, but I also take Warlock a lot of the time just because I like just draw more cards. Yep, that hero power is always going to be useful.
It's definitely possible to draft a zoo-like deck with Warlock.
Yeah. Okay, very cool. All right, so let's say I pick Paladin and Warlock. What's next?
All right, so tip number 3, I just wanted to go over some of the lingo that we're going to be talking about for people that maybe aren't familiar with it.
Yeah.
I come from the school of Trump, so first and foremost,
Are you certified in the School of Trump? Do you have a paperwork to?
I have an honorary doctorate, self-appointed.
Nice.
Value. You're going to hear me say value a lot, and what that means is cards that are independently good, like Spider Tank, 3 mana, 3/4, which basically trades favorably against everything its mana cost and lower. You're pretty much guaranteed a 2-for-1 with a Spider Tank. Or cards that affect the board state. For example, something like Stormpike Commando, which is a 4/2 with a battle cry that does 2 damage. This is an example of a card which you will never see in Constructed, but at 5 mana, even though it's expensive, it has disproportionate value because you can affect the board. You can actually remove something rather than, say, like compare that to at 5 mana, you can have the 4/4. Oh God, I'm blanking. Night Stalker. Nightblade, exactly. Yeah. She does 3 damage to the face, which, if that's to kill the opponent, that's great. But you would rather have 2 directed damage that you can decide where it goes.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
And that's in kind of opposition to what's known as win more cards, which are cards that are reliant on synergy or specific board states to be used effectively. Examples of that would be like the Enhanso Mechano, which grants Divine Shield or Wind Fury or Taunt randomly to all your minions, or Bloodlust, which gives all your minions +3 attack. Those are only good if you have a board. If you are behind, those cards are the most worthless cards in your deck.
Yeah. So are buff cards in general not very good in Arena?
It depends. Things like the Shattered Sun Cleric, the 3/2 gives +1/+1, or the Dark Iron Dwarf 4/4 gives +2 attack that turn, are good cards because they surprise your opponent. And even if you have to play a Dark Iron Dwarf on the board naked, just as a 4/4, it's not the end of the world. If you play an Enhanso Mechano out naked, it's pretty bad. So I would say, and the value of those buff cards are increased if you have more low-cost minions.
Okay, because then you're more likely to have something on the board.
Exactly. Or something that generates tokens. Like like you said, you would pick Paladin. So in Paladin, Shattered Sun Cleric and Dark Iron Dwarf are actually really good.
Very cool. Okay, interesting. Oh, okay, so it sounds like you want buffs attached to bodies. You don't really want standalone buff cards.
Yeah. If you have to draft a Bloodlust, one Bloodlust is not the end of the world because you can generate totems. But when you first get into Arena, it's really easy to overvalue the really sexy cards, the cards that you were like, oh my gosh, I am going to destroy them when this amazing thing happens. And that amazing thing is maybe going to happen once in your whole Arena run. And the rest of the time, it's just going to be sitting. As you play more, you'll see, like, if you have this card that just sits in your hand, either you kept it or you draw it early, and turn after turn, you can't play it. You can't play it. You can't play it. That's a bad card.
Yeah, that's actually why I mostly stopped playing Priest in Arena, because the Priest spells are so cool that I can't not draft them, but then I just end up with a ton of like health changing effects and nothing to play them on.
Yeah, Priest definitely it is really reliant on board. If you don't have board control as Priest, you lose for sure.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Moving on to the next tip, you're going to hear us talk about the curve, and that means how many cards you have in total at each mana cost. It matters because if you have something to play on curve every turn and your opponent doesn't, you're going to be ahead on the board. If you miss turn 2 or 3, you're going to give the initiative to the opponent, and then they're going to be ahead of you.
So do you count the curve all the way from 1 to 10, or what really matters?
So at this point, you want early game, and that's because you're guaranteed a turn 1, a turn 2, a turn 3, a turn 4. Sometimes you'll lose by turn 5 or 6 for sure, but you're not guaranteed a turn 7, a turn 8, a turn 9. So you could draft these amazing, you could draft Deathwing, great example. 10 mana, 12/12, destroys everything on the board. Oh man, I'm going to win the game with this. You might, but you might die before turn 10, and then that means it's a worthless card.
Yeah, I've definitely died before 10 many times. I got Archmage Antonidas, the
Yes.
mage legendary, and drew him all 3 games, never got to play him once. It was actually quite depressing.
Yes, that definitely happens. You'll get a nice, big, sexy legend, and it does nothing for you because even if you can play it, you end up so far, or if you're behind, even if you play it, it literally does nothing to affect the board state, and that's kind of like what the idea of the value is just because a card is good and constructed, it might. I'm going to try to think of an example for legends. Like, okay, yeah, so you have like Alexstrasza, Ragnaros, and what's his name? The Stalag. I think the 4/7, right? But you can play him at turn 5.
Yep.
So if you're kind of getting pounded on and you're able to drop him on turn 5 and he has 7 health, so he's going to 2-for-1 or 3-for-1 for you, you're going to have a couple turns to recover. Whereas if you have this Ragnaros and you play him on turn 8 and the opponent already has 7 minions on the board, you're probably just going to destroy like a 2-1 and still lose the game.
Okay, interesting. Because a lot of times when I get to legendaries, I just get caught up in the, wow, this legendary is so powerful, I better take it. But it does make a lot of sense to try and get the lower cost ones.
I guess what I'm... not all. It depends if you already have enough lower, because if you have enough lower cost stuff, like the goal is if you're able to draft something really powerful like that, if you can get to that point, which means like taunts or heals or early minions to play, if you can't get there, it doesn't matter. I'm not saying like always, don't always draft, Fugin over Rag, but it's the curve. You have to take the curve into account is all I'm saying there.
Okay.
And so then finally, like along with curve, you're going to hear us say drop. And drop refers to a minion card that can be played onto an empty board on your side. You have nothing on your side of the board. The turn that matches its mana cost. An example of that would be the Senjin Shieldmaster, a 3/5 with taunt for 4 mana. If you have to play him on turn 4, you're always going to be happy about that. It's not a bad play. A Fireball, which is 6 damage for 4 mana, is ideally not played on turn 4. So even though it's a 4 mana card, it's not what's referred to as a 4 drop. So when talking about how many drops you have at a given mana slot, you don't count situational spells or minions like Big Game Hunter. Even though he's 3 mana, you don't want to play him on turn 3.
Oh, I see. Okay. So when you say a 4-drop, that means a card that you're just always happy to drop on that turn, regardless of what's on the board already, essentially.
Exactly.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, and this kind of ties in with the curve, right? Because a lot of times, because the arena does show you how many cards you have at each number, but it's always important to actually look at what those cards are. Because a lot of times with like stuff like Big Game Hunter, you mentioned, it's a 3-cost card. So if you have, let's say you have 3 of them, it's crazy, right? But if you did, your little 3-drop meter, when you're looking at the curve, may look great. But then you realize, oh, wait, 3 of those aren't actually for turn 3. And, oh, some of these are buff spells, right, that I can't really count as a 3-drop. Oh, I have no 3 drops, really, even though my 3 bar is filled out.
Exactly. That's really the important thing to think about when you're talking about drops. Because, yeah, if you end up with nothing to play on turn 3, or you end up having to play something suboptimally, you're not going to be happy about it. Your run is not going to go well.
Okay. All right. I'm feeling pretty lingoed now. I'm hip with the lingo. What else you got for me?
All right. Well, that means tip 4. It's time for drafting 101.
Ooh.
So now having known the kind of things that I was talking about, like value cards and win more cards, start by picking the quote-unquote best cards, most valuable cards, regardless of their mana for the first 10 picks.
Okay. So for all 10. Okay. So even if it's all like, oh man, the best cards are all 2 drops, you just take them.
It's unlikely that that's the case, but if that is the case, you know that you're going to be drafting an aggressive deck.
Yeah.
Generally, yeah. I mean, and you can, these are all general guides. I'm not saying always, like, oh, pick 9, don't pick it, but this is the way I generally do it, and kind of the way people better than me do it is what I would say. And basically, what you do is then once you have you've picked basically the best cards, you want to start reevaluating basically every 5 picks, and when you have a tough decision, choose the one that fills a hole in your curve. And so what that means is you might, towards the end of the draft, you might pick a mediocre card over a better one if you're lacking either early game or late game.
Mm-hmm. I'm in.
Okay, and so then
I'm just sorry. I may not be responding because I'm just sitting back soaking in this knowledge.
Okay.
I even have a couple notes here I'm writing down for myself.
Nice.
I feel like I'm in a class right now. This is so fun.
I know. I told you I had an honorary doctorate in value.
That's true.
School of Value.
School of Value. School me.
And so this is kind of from me playing, and I also do watch some streamers and YouTubers play Arena as well. And since GVG and even then BlackRock, the meta, which is, I guess I should have defined that in lingo, the meta game, right, is the kind of what people are doing beyond what the exact rules of the game are. It's the kind of the commonly accepted strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And right now it's more aggressive than it's been. I know we've kind of been saying in general it's a slower game. But now there are a lot of 1 and 2 drops that are very powerful. So you either need to draft them or have a way to slow them down. And kind of like I said before, this is because you're guaranteed the early game, not the late. You might not live until turn 8 to play that awesome Ironbark Protector 8/8 with Taunt for the Druid. That is an amazing card. But if you can't live to that point, it doesn't matter that you have it.
Mm-hmm. So is that... How often are you looking up is there even such a thing as like looking up the meta for Arena to learn that sort of stuff? Or how do you know that?
Not that I'm aware of. It's from personal play, and then again just watching people that play way more arenas than me. I personally put a lot of stock in what Crip has to say. He plays a lot of Arena, and he makes regular videos kind of talking about what he's seen going on. And since he can play a lot more than me, and it kind of coincides with what I'm seeing, then it's probably correct.
Okay, cool. We'll put a link in the show notes for people to these. I assume, Ryan, you can come with a list maybe of different streamers and stuff you would recommend people checking out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. We'll put that in the show notes for people that want to kind of learn more on that.
Yeah, so then the next thing you want to think about is ideally how many spells do you want to have as opposed to minions. And it mainly depends on what spells. And when you're thinking about spells, if you're a weapon class, weapons are essentially spells. Weapons are usually used for removal. If you have an aggressive enough deck, you can use them for face damage, but usually use weapons to gain board control and card advantage, since weapons will usually 2 or 3 for 1 your opponent. Mm-hmm. Can you have too many fireballs or flame strikes if you're a mage? Probably not, but it does depend on what your other options are. I can tell you, when you objectively look at fireballs, it's hard to pick another card, because Fireball's a common, so it's up against it's a basic, but basics are counted as common rarity in Arena. And so the other cards that are at basic rarity, common rarity, are almost never going to be better than Fireball's one of the best cards in the game.
Yeah. And it's so versatile, right? Because that's the 4 mana, deal 6 damage. Like,
exactly.
You can kill 6 drops with that. You can finish off opponents with that. So, yeah, So you're saying fireballs and flame strikes, would that coincide with other similar removal spells like consecrate, or are the mage ones unique kind of in this regard?
No, every class, if you can get removal is good. Consecrate is amazing because if your opponent goes really aggressive and has flooded the board by turn 4 or 3 if you have the coin, when you consecrate, you've basically 3 or 4 for 1 them, and then you have a huge card advantage at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can draft it, you want at least a couple AoE spells and a few big target removal spells. And if they can be used for burst finishing like Fireball, that's just a bonus.
Okay, so in general, you want more minions than spells, though. So outside of these kind of outliers, because my problem, I think, early on was always I took more spells. But it seems like it's better to just throw bodies down in general.
Yes. Kind of the best way you can think about it is if you play a spell for face damage, say like Frostbolts are good, but unless you're killing the person or trying to deny a weapon use, you don't want to use a Frostbolt on the face. It's a waste. You pay 2 mana, you do 3 damage, and that's it. But if you put down, say, like a Bloodfen Raptor, a 3/2, and they can't deal with it, you deal 3 damage, you deal 6 damage, you deal 9 damage. It's the repetitive damage that wins you the games generally.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so do you have any sort of general guideline, like 75% minions, 25% spells, or is there a cutoff like don't do more than 10 spells? Do you have any sort of vague guidelines like that?
I don't actually have a number. It strictly depends on how good the choice is.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, if you somehow end up drafting 5 fireballs, you're probably going to get 12 wins. I think the most flame strikes I've ever drafted is 5. And it feels broken when you hit that point. I think I saw Crip draft 7
oh my goodness.
flame strikes once. And of course you got 12 wins with it. So you basically, if the spells are good, it's okay to take them. But if it's, if you're taking a bunch of Earth Shocks or even like Forked Lightning, something like that isn't really good value, then it doesn't hurt to have 1 or 2 of those, but you don't want to end up with like 4 of them or even 3.
Okay, that makes sense. So if it came down to like Forked Lightning and then just like a mediocre card, say like Bloodfen Raptor, like you just go Bloodfen Raptor every time pretty much.
If I needed a 2-drop and if I didn't have any other removal, if I needed the removal, I would take Forked Lightning.
Okay.
So it's hard because everything's very conditional.
Listen, Ryan, I want you to give me a sentence that I can just obey blindly.
I know
and always win.
That's the amazing thing about Arena is it's very much like a choose your own adventure. You can't just follow this. It's not like net decking. You don't just get this awesome Face Hunter deck and you play it the same way every time and just burn people down by turn 4 or 5. There's a lot of nuance to the Arena, and some people can vibe with that and other people don't like it.
Yeah, I mean that's probably one of the things I always say, because some people get upset about net decking, right? They get really offended that people net deck.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the first things I always recommend is like, hey, you should do Arena, because that stuff just doesn't matter in Arena, right? Like, sure, the closest you get to net decking is stuff like you were saying where like, hey, fireballs are really good, take a lot of them. Like, that's really the closest you can get. It's just a really nice kind of open playing field.
Yeah. The one other thing that I just thought of that I wanted to add in, since I had mentioned that weapons are basically spells, is because weapons have charges, they are a little different than spells in that you can have too many weapons, especially as a warrior. Like if you have, 2 fiery war axes, 2 death spites, 2 Arcanite Reapers, you're probably never going to be able to use all of those charges. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're drafting weapons. think about like, okay, if I play this weapon on turn 2 and then I play this weapon on turn 4, like, oh wait, I can't play my Arcanite Reaper till turn 7, and then I still have 3 more weapons. The worst thing that can happen to you is your hand is just weapons.
Yeah.
So be careful with weapons.
Be careful with weapons. That's a good life
Yeah.
rule, I think we could say. All right, cool. Any other drafting 101 tips?
Yeah, so then finally, once you're done, you want to just look at what kind of deck you ended up with, because that will kind of dictate your strategy, how you're going to try to play your deck. There's, being really simplistic, there's 3 basic decks. You have a fast deck, which means it has a low curve, a lot of low-cost minions. You're basically going to try to burn them down. The initial strategy can be kind of similar to like Zoo or like the aggro paladin right now, where you're like controlling the board, but then you switch to face like once you get control. There's the mid, which kind of has more of a classic bell curve. Your goal here is you're going to outvalue the fast deck. You're going to stop them and then win with your better minions. But then if you're playing a slower deck, you're going to be more aggressive against them. And then finally, so a slow deck then is going to have like either a more flat curve or a higher curve, more high cost cards. And your goal there is to hold out until you can play these big value cards. And you probably are going to need taunts or heals to survive the aggression from the faster decks.
Okay. Very cool. That's actually really smart, because a lot of times I feel I go into an arena wanting to draft a certain way, where like, hey, I'm going to pick Paladin, I want to do a slow deck. But you don't quite get the cards to actually build a slow deck. Because I think about that sometimes, and I look and I'm like, ooh, actually I have a lot of 2, 3, and 4 drops, and I only have like 2 big guys. I guess I actually have to try and go faster than I wanted to.
Exactly. I guess kind of wrapping up the drafting, the best way analogy that I can kind of give is if you're a Star Wars nerd and you remember when Obi-Wan was training Luke on the Millennium Falcon with the blast shield down with the lightsaber, and he's like, but I can't see anything. And he's like, forcing it, and he's like, no, feel it, let it come to you. And that's what you have to do with the draft. You have to take what's given to you, and then at the very end, you look at what you actually have. Like, take 2 to 3 minutes. Like, look over your deck list, count how many cards you have at each level, recognize, be like, okay, this is a fast deck. Like, I have to play this deck fast. If I don't play this deck fast, if I don't kill them early, I don't have anything late. I don't have any card draw. I'm going to lose.
I would like to point out that your Luke Skywalker voice was fantastic.
Oh my God.
That was so good. I hope you're going to be in the new movie.
He's so... Mark Hamill, he was so young, he was so whiny.
Yeah. Yeah, to be fair, part of that was the lines they gave him. Yeah.
Yeah, well...
like, hey, why don't you complain about every little thing? Okay.
Yeah, but I have to say, that scene, it's a good metaphor for life, that, you can whine about it, or you can learn the lesson, and that's kind of... Arena is a harsh mistress. If you're starting out, you're gonna lose. You're gonna get pounded, but you have to gain experience and learn from it.
Yep. I would venture to say that Arena is a wretched den of wretched hive of scum.
Scum and villainy.
Scum and villainy. There you go.
Most Eisley. Yep.
Yeah.
Indeed.
All right. Awesome. What else you got for me?
Okay, so then you got your deck now.
Uh-huh.
Tip number 5, the first thing you're going to do when you go into your first game, you're not even going to play yet, right? You have to mulligan. And this is where coming into looking at what deck you drafted is really important. Because if you don't know what deck you have, you don't know what to get rid of and what to keep.
Yeah.
So the first thing to think about is, do you have the coin? Because, right, the coin is the equalizer for the disadvantage of going second. And depending can be really powerful. If you're a rogue and you're going second, the coin is amazing because it's a free combo activator.
Mm-hmm.
So take into account whether or not you have the coin. In your mulligan, you want to have a 2-drop for sure. If you don't have a 2-drop and they do, you're gonna fall behind. It's gonna be hard. You're gonna be playing at a disadvantage. You also want 1-drops, but only if you are able to draft enough of them.
Yeah, there's no point fishing for just one, right? 'Cause
Exactly.
Your chances of getting it are so low.
Exactly. And so basically the idea is like, even if you have a really good 4 or 5 cost minion, but you don't have any 1s or 2s, you want to get rid of everything. And with your goal being to curve out. For example, you want to end up with a 1, 2, 3. Or even a 2, 3, 4 isn't the end of the world. If you have the coin, you can coin turn 1 and play 2, 2, 3. Or you can even do something like 2, coin 4, or coin on turn 3, coin 4, and then on turn 4 play another 4-drop. There's, I mean, it's not limitless permutations, but there are, with the coin, it lets you, kind of change what you're keeping and what you're getting rid of.
So if you had, say you had gotten even something as good as Dr. Boom, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't have a 2 or 3 drop, you'd even throw him back.
I would get rid of Dr. Boom, yes, because you're not, like, you... Well, what I would say is, okay, so this is kind of... I wish they would remove this from the game, because as a tryhard, you can watch your opponent's mulligan, and you can see how many cards they keep or get rid of. And you can wait all the way until the stupid timer counts all the way down. And it will let you know if they think they have cards that they can play early. So if they got rid of all of their cards and you have other cards you could potentially get into, I wouldn't keep Dr. Boom. No, I would get rid of them. Having said all that, it's too risky. You're not, like we've said a bunch of times, you're not guaranteed a turn 7.
Yeah.
And you know what? You can experiment. Sometimes you might get lucky, but I can almost guarantee you a fair amount of the time you're going to be sitting there watching your face explode with Dr. Boom like still in slot number 1 of your hand.
Yep. So that's actually a really interesting point that you made. I never really thought to like wait and see what they do with their mulligan. Do you do that pretty often?
I do that every game I play.
Okay, so you just wait and see it. And so what you're looking for is if they keep, then okay, they're going to hit me early? Is that the idea?
Yeah, so generally, say your opponent has 3 cards and they keep 2 of them, if they know what they're doing, they have a turn 2 play for sure. Maybe a turn 1 play. If they get rid of everything, then of course it's, you don't know what they got back. But generally, if your opponent keeps cards, they're good. And they can play them.
And then your reaction to that is, hey, I need to get a turn 1, turn 2 play?
Yes, exactly. So it will be kind of like, okay, say I have a 2 and then a 4. If I'm trying to decide if I'm going to keep this 4-drop, if they get rid of everything, I might feel better about keeping the 4-drop because I'm like, okay, there's a high likelihood that I'm going to kind of have a grace turn in there.
Yeah.
But only if that 4-drop's really good. It's like Chillwind Yeti, the gold standard of arena 4-drops. Though you could argue the not piloted Shredder. Oh yeah, it is piloted Shredder. Piloted Shredder is insane value too.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of surpassed the Yeti as the gold standard.
Poor Yeti. He's just too simple. Too simple.
I love him. He's such a good card.
Yeah, he is.
So then kind of the last thing with your mulligan, the question is always, or not always, but say you end up with a removal. Say you end up with a Frostbolt in your hand. It's a 2-drop, or it's not a 2-drop. It's a 2-mana card. And so this is, I'll watch the opponent's mulligan, and it'll also depend if I already have a 1 or a 2-drop to play, or if I have the coin. A lot of times keeping removal can be greedy because say your opponent just hero powers on turn 2, then like you're not just going to Frostbolt their face. So it's like everything I've been saying, I'm being wishy-washy, but you got to feel it out on whether or not to keep removal. But
so with removal, if you see them keep most of their cards, you'll probably hold on to that Frostbolt because you're pretty sure they're gonna give you something to hit.
Exactly. Like I'll get, so say I have like, Frostbolt and like, a 5 mana and an 8 mana card. I'll get rid of the 5 and the 8, but I'll keep the Frostbolt because, so say they drop, a Whirling Zap-O-Matic if you're playing a Shaman. If you didn't have that Frostbolt, you're probably going to take like 12 damage to your face.
Yeah, you essentially lose the game.
Exactly. So that's, you got to use the Force. That's all I can say with that. Feel it out.
All right, I'll work on my Force sensitivity. It hasn't been working so far, and I've been trying since the 3rd grade, but I'll keep going.
All right, so you've got your mulligan. Your mulligans happen, so it moves us to tip number 6, the early game. So really, going on with more great philosophers, to coin or not to coin, that is the question. You will see people do stuff like turn 1, coin, hero power, face. If they do that, you're going to win. Or you'll see people coin, do something, but then on turn 2, they don't have a follow-up play, which is basically a waste. And so my rule, or my guideline, is basically coin on turn 1 only if you have a turn 2 play to follow it up, or to remove, like we already mentioned, the Whirling Zap-O-Matic.
Mm-hmm.
Your goal is pretty straightforward, standard Hearthstone strat. Obtain board control, but without playing into an AoE board clear, which basically means like don't play into a consecration. If you are coming up on turn 7, or if they have the coin turn 6, don't play into a flame strike, because if you play into the AoE board clear, you're going to lose a ton of cards. They're going to have the advantage, and it's going to be really hard for you to come back.
Okay, so I actually have a specific question here on this, because I ran into this. It was in Tavern Brawl, so not quite Arena, but similar, where I had like 3 dudes on the board.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember who they were, right? But one of them was like a 3-2, one was like a 4-5, we'll say. One was like a 4-5 that was injured down to 2 health.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to trade to get rid of something on his side of the board. And I could do that either with any 3 of them. And I ended up doing it with the one that wouldn't die when he traded. But then it just kind of left me open to the AoE board clear. He played Consecrate and then killed them all.
Killed all of them.
Yeah. It seems counterintuitive to me, but in that case, would you think it's better to leave one of them at the full 5 health and just trade something and lose it right away?
I mean, hindsight 2020 in that case. So yes, clearly in that case it would have been better just to use the 3-2 to do it. That is the double-edged blade of value. Sometimes you can become too in love with value, and the idea is that you bait out the board clear. You test for it. So you say, okay, if I were him and I had a Consecrate, I would play it in this situation. And if he doesn't use it, he probably doesn't have it. Or if you've already seen like 2 Consecrates, you're like, okay, the odds of him having a 3rd are really low, so I'm going to play into it. And it's like, so sometimes it's like, I don't say things out loud, but I'll kind of make a note in my head that, okay, he needs this card or he loses. Or if they don't have this card here, then I'm not going to get punished.
Hey, you can talk out loud. It doesn't offend me if you're talking while you're playing. It's a safe zone here. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, I'm a little crazy. I'm not that crazy. No offense if you talk to yourself, though. A lot of people do it.
Okay, cool. Okay, that makes sense. So maybe try it out, and in that case, I would try it once and then see if I get punished, and then if not, I know that for the future.
Or,
and then if you get punished, you just take it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. So it's because it's a gamble, and so the other way to think about it is like, okay, so I could have traded my 3-2, and then I still have board control, and it's great. But if I do this other play where I do the value play, I go in with my 4-5, I end up with all my damaged minions. But then if they play the board, the spell, all my cards are dead, and then I'm going to lose the game. Then you want to make the less value play.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so you weigh it's you kind of weigh what the worst case scenario is for each, and if you can live with that worst case scenario.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, you're kind of always rolling the die. You don't know what they have. You don't know what they drafted, but you. It's just important to kind of keep a mental tally of how many of these, because every class has these amazing game-breaking cards, and if you keep track of how many they've played, you can be like, okay, he's played 3 Flame Strikes. He probably doesn't have a 4th. If he has a 4th, he's going to win anyways, so you might as well play into it at that point. It's kind of like at a certain point you have to just say, like, well, I'm going to lose either way, so I have to play into it. And if they do, there's nothing you can do about it, really.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes they just get awesome decks, and you just have to be okay with that and move on to the next challenge.
Exactly. And so kind of like the last thing, kind of what we were saying before about the drops, is in early game, your goal is if you can play a value minion each turn, you're going to be in control of the trading, and you're going to get favorable trades, and you're going to keep putting pressure on them, where if they miss one turn, if you have a good deck, and they miss one turn, a lot of times that will outright win you the game. Like, they just can't come back from it.
So when you say play a value minion, you just mean a minion with good stats, essentially?
Exactly, a minion that you're happy to play on that turn. So, like, turn 1, the Stealth Worgen, 2-1, that guy's great. On turn 2, even if it's just the everyone likes to, talk down on the Bloodfriend Raptor, but 3-2, like, nothing to be sad about if you play that on turn 2. Turn 3, you can do the, Earthen Ring Farseer, or, the Spider Tank we already talked about. Turn 4, of course, like Yeti, Shredder. But it's like, you can really see, if you play those cards each turn, it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on your opponent.
Yeah. Okay, very cool. All right, so let's say I make it through the early game. I'm looking good. What do I do next?
All right, so this is really kind of the fulcrum of the game. Tip number 7, face versus board control. And for this, you have to already know what is the win condition of your deck. Kind of like we talked about before. Is your deck fast? Is your deck slow? Are you playing against a deck that's faster than yours? Are you playing a deck that's slower than yours? If you draw the game out, like if you keep trading, can you win that control slow game?
Yeah, so the answer there could be no, because you have all cheap minions, and in theory, if they're going slow too, they could be dropping Boulder Fist Ogres that you just can't answer.
Exactly, and so it's at that point, if you've been board controlling to that point, and you can see that they're playing bigger and bigger minions, and if you just trade, you're going to basically, 1 for 3, you're going to have really disadvantageous trades. You need to decide, you're like, you know what, you just got to YOLO it, you just got to go face to try to win the game. And this is I'm going to say this is probably one of the hardest skills, besides just like drafting and knowing what cards are good, is it took me quite a long time to stop playing the value game and realize at a certain point you have to go for the face or you're going to lose.
Yeah. It's really hard for me too, because I'm very much a control player. That is what I feel comfortable in. It's similar to how I play RTSs, right? I build walls, I turtle up, and then I roll out with my 200-man army and crush you. It's really hard for me to be like, you know what? It's just time to punch face.
It is, but sometimes it's necessary. I'm also a control type player, but it's if that's the deck you've drafted, you have to stick to your deck's game plan. Mm-hmm. And so, having said that, going face, it's important to remember, just because you or your opponent are below 10 health doesn't mean the game's over. In arena especially, don't concede. I don't know how many times I've won at less than 5 health. I've been at 1 health. If you're playing against somebody that can't do direct damage, like a shaman, or with their hero power, like a shaman or a warrior, if they don't draw a card that deals damage, the game isn't over yet. And so you'll be, oh my gosh, you'll be so surprised. It's the best feeling in the world when you're playing against someone that's really aggressive, and you get so low, but you finally have that turn where you get your big clear, you get some taunt down, you start playing your big minions, and they can't finish you.
Yeah, it's incredibly satisfying to come back from that, when it's just like from the brink of death, because every turn they're watching and they're like, oh, a taunt, man, I'm gonna have to get through that. Oh no, oh no, oh no, and just like you can see it from where they thought they had it, and then they just slowly get sadder and sadder until you come back.
Exactly. It's probably the second best feeling to the 12 wins, I have to say. the amazing comeback victory.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So focus on the win condition of my deck. Don't give up. Anything else, or is it kind of a lot just those two combined?
Yeah, it's really those two combined, and the overarching idea that kind of goes with face versus board control is playing to win versus playing not to lose. If you have the slower deck, you want to play to not lose because you're going to win the long game. If you play not to lose with a faster deck, you're probably going to lose anyway. So it's kind of just reiterating that same idea. And it really, like, you have to play a lot of games to get the feel for it. It's not something that is immediately obvious at the point where you got to flip the switch.
So to help encourage maybe newer players, how many games do you think, how many arena runs do you think you put in until you felt you had a good handling of when to make these decisions?
Wow. Well, so I didn't even become aware of this idea until maybe, oh gosh, when did I say I started playing? Almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I would say I wasn't even aware of this idea until maybe like 9 months to a year after I started playing. Where again, I got to give a shout out to Crip. Crip kind of did a video about this and showed me the idea behind it, and I was like, oh, he's right. That totally makes sense, because I was basically always playing this like Trump extreme value game where I was just grinding it out and not realizing at a certain point, if you just go face, you're gonna win. Instead of always trading, like always playing safe. Like when you start, play safe, but as you play more, give it. I mean, if you play more than me, like I was saying, I played a lot when I was unemployed, and then since I've had a job, I play less. But you'll start to feel when you can play a little more risky. But you're gonna get initially more wins if you play it safe. The thing that I can say is, like, just either make a physical or a mental note when you're like, okay, this is the point, I'm going all in, I'm gonna win, and then did you win or did you lose? Like, was it a mistake or was it not? Kind of keep tally like that.
Yeah. Okay, very cool. Any other tips for me? Or is that gonna win me the game? At this point, have I won?
Gosh, I hope so. I know it's a lot, and a lot of it is very, very feeling based and experience based. But I feel like these basics are solid, and there's a couple of resources that you can use, especially when you're starting out for drafting. There's heartharena.com, which also, if you make an account, will record your statistics. And you enter your cards in, and it'll tell you basically what the best card to draft, taking into account your entire deck. It's pretty good. I used it a couple times, but either it was always picking the card that I was going to pick anyways, or I didn't agree with its pick.
Okay.
So I kind of, and it's also, I mean, it takes a little more time because you have to enter the cards into it. But if you're starting out, I definitely recommend it. It's a great resource.
Very cool. I actually haven't used this before. This looks really cool.
It is really cool. The guy that does it is awesome. Like I definitely, like I said, even though like I'm personally not currently using it, I would definitely recommend it to anybody looking to get better at Arena. I also found there's another guide on Icy Veins that we'll have a link to in the show notes that I read. That's it basically, if you look through and listen to everything that I just said and you're like, this guy's full of poo, then check out that
Good
one.
Good censorship there. I like
because
it.
that one is significantly more in-depth and actually goes into each class, which is beyond the scope of what we were doing here. And then finally, my favorite YouTuber Twitch streamers are Kriparian and Trump. There's other people who also do it and are very good, but just their personalities and the way they think speaks best to me. But there's people like Hafu. I don't even know if she still streams, though. I guess I shouldn't have name dropped her. I know Ratsma is a really good guy. He didn't draw me in though on his stream, but other people he might speak to other people more.
Okay, yeah, we'll put links into a few of them so people can try it out. But we'll put Crip and Trump at the top. Ryan endorsed.
Yeah, Value Town all the way.
Value
Town for life.
I hope you have a tattoo of some kind.
I do, not a Value Town though.
Okay.
I have to work on that one.
Yeah, I got to. Then you can hang out with Prison Trump. It'll be good.
Prison Trump. So good. you know Trump.
I do. Trump is. I love how goofy he is, because a lot of people in like the gaming or the streaming scene in general just take themselves a little too seriously. I like people that don't.
Yeah.
Cool. So awesome. These are some great tips, Ryan. Thank you for putting this together. I like actually how you walked. It felt like you walked me through a draft, and I won. I feel like I've basically gone 12-0 already. So,
hey, if you will it is no dream.
There you go. Hey, I like that. Then can I tell people that I've gone 12-0 in Arena? Is that fair?
If you can live with yourself with that lie, I mean, I'm not gonna.
Wow.
I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't tell people.
Yeah, you will just shame me and guilt me into not doing it. Okay, this is not the guilty Hearthstone, so I will not tell people that. But I'll learn it.
Yeah,
hey,
you'll get it.
My 4 Guardian of Kings, 2 Consecrations, 2 True Silver Champions can't get me there. I'm probably hopeless.
Well, I would have to see the whole deck list, but to me it sounds like if you have enough early game that is going to get you to all those healers, it's going to be really hard to kill you. But if your curve and drops are less than ideal, then you might not get there.
And that may very well be true, because I definitely did not read these show notes before I drafted. I went in blind, and I am really bad about not reevaluating. One of my favorite tips in this was reevaluating at turns 10, 15, 20, and 25, or picks, not turns, because I don't do that at all. And I think that would be very helpful just to look through and remind myself, okay, this is where I am, this is what I want, rather than I look and I'm like, oh god, the 4 mana bar is spiked way high. What have I done?
That's going to happen on Paladin, though, because he has his class cards at 4 mana are so good. Like, you're going to have a spike at 4. If you get lucky, sometimes you'll draft Paladin, you won't have any of his... But that's kind of a good example. Like, look back at your deck now, like knowing all this, and actually honestly evaluate it. Be like, oh man, I don't have enough 2-drops. I don't have enough 3-drops. Or do you have heals? Do you have taunts that are going to stall the game out to let you get to those big heals?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. So, any other last arena tips before we shift into the community section?
Just again, like, don't give up. You'll be surprised with sometimes your deck has some miracle card that will save you. Top decks are real. And if possible, so the most success that I've had is when I start an arena, if I'm going to be serious about it, I draft it. I try to play the whole thing. If you're going 12 wins, it takes a long time, but if you can sit down on a Saturday or a Sunday and play through your whole run in one go, or you maybe take a break or something, but you really get to know the deck the same way that Face Hunter or Control Warrior, and you're going to play it better. Whereas if you said you don't want to play this 3-win paladin more, but if you wait a week and you come back to it, you're gonna be like, I don't remember what cards are in this. I don't remember how it plays. And it's not to say you won't do well, but I find it a lot harder to come back to an arena deck than to push through with the arena deck.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, you convinced me. I'm not going to sleep till this is done. Tell my wife and child I'll see them tomorrow.
Well, hey, I'll tell you, Saturday night arena is some of the best time to beat up on the drunks.
Oh, is that true?
It is true. You'll play some hilariously bad decks, and you'll see some hilariously bad plays.
So you've actually noticed that Saturday night in particular?
Oh yeah. Oh, and sometimes I'm the drunk, but even when I'm drunk, like that's one of the things. I guess I should have asked about substances before.
This is going. Okay. We're family friendly.
Okay.
We'll just qualify that you shouldn't get crazy drunk, especially if you can't drink.
Yeah, I'm of age. I'm a responsible adult, and
you're not driving and drafting and drinking.
Yeah,
at the same time,
I'm not
right?
playing.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm playing on my phone in my car. No, but it's one of the fun things about Hearthstone is you can actually have a couple drinks and still play. And as long as you don't play too quick, you're playing too. Usually, the thing that's nice with Arena is you don't end up with a combo deck. You're not trying to like Miracle Rogue or Patron Warrior and do the math and finish them off. But yeah, I've been on both ends of the Saturday night beat down.
That's really funny. All right, that's good to know because I don't typically actually do Arena much on the weekends. I tend to do it weeknights. I'm missing out on this.
I mean, just because of my schedule, I ended up playing a lot more arenas on the weekends. There's also a bigger, player pool, so you do kind of probably stand. I mean, the thing is like you're kind of talking about getting through that like 3 to 5 wins. Once you get to like 6, 7 plus wins, the person either has an amazing deck, and it doesn't matter how good they are, or they're really good and they have at least a decent deck. So the disclaimer about getting through is kind of only applies to like the earlier wins. But
okay,
it'll help. It'll you'll build morale. You'll get a feel for your deck.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. All right, let's jump into the community because we got a cool question this week from Dustin. Actually, that I'm excited to hear your thoughts on, in particular, Ryan. Dustin wrote in and asked, "Do you have a list of automatic dust cards? I don't think I need some of the junk in my collection and would like a quick and easy trim down guide." He even suggested adding a category to the show called Dust of the Week in addition to Card of the Week, which I thought was really funny. He also mentioned he's a new listener and he's been playing Happy Hearthstone episodes for 6 hours a day in his car while driving around clients. So he is forcing his clients to listen to Happy Hearthstone, which is hilarious, and I love it. So hello, Dustin's clients and friends. Oh, man, I should have prepared a special message. You should give Dustin a high five after you're done driving, and it's safe to do so. Maybe like a double high five with both hands. There you go. All right, so what do you think, Ryan? Are you dusting cards like crazy, or do you have cards that you absolutely dust?
Well, I'm just going to say whether or not you should dust cards, it depends on you. I'm
me?
Depend on you, like the royal you.
Okay. Ooh, so fancy.
I'm a collector. I have never dusted any non-duplicates, not even my golden angry chicken or golden Millhouse Manister. That's how serious I'm about this.
Wow.
Because, I like having the cards. And trust me, when you play a joke deck and you win with a golden angry chicken, it is the best BM in the world.
Yeah, I believe that.
The other kind of like horror story I'll tell is that my buddy dusted a ton of cards, including like Deathwing and some other epics and stuff, to build a Miracle Rogue deck, if people remember those, right before it was nerfed.
That's painful.
Yeah,
that's the stuff of nightmares.
So that's the thing. You can dust, but remember, especially if it's a gold, it takes 4 times as much dust to craft it again. You might say, like, oh, I'm never going to craft a golden angry chicken. It's like, okay, well, then dust it.
Yeah. I mean, so first, I will say, I think this sounds like actually an awesome episode. Like, I would love to do an episode that just goes through, like, hey, if you want to dust, these are the cards you should dust. These are the ones you definitely should not dust, right? I think Scott would actually be a really good fit for this, because I think he'd have pretty strong opinions on some of these. So I'll actually talk with him. Scott, if you're listening to this is me starting this communication with you. Send me an email in response, and we'll get this going. But personally, I don't really dust anything unless I have to, right? Occasionally, to build some of the decks that I need to do for this show, I just need dust, right? Because when suddenly like Mech Mage came out of nowhere and I hadn't really done any mech decks, I needed a lot of dust to craft that stuff. So I started dusting some things. But like right now I'm sitting on a golden Lorewalker Cho and a normal Lorewalker Cho, like I kind of mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And it actually, I was glad that I had it when, and this is what kind of changed my mind especially, or convinced me, was Tavern Brawl. Every single week we're going to have new game mode.
That's
and that
right.
game mode is going to make cards that aren't normally good or interesting. You're going to want to play around with them there. Like the one a couple weeks back where every time you played a spell, you got a random minion.
Oh, yeah.
I played Lorewalker Cho in every single one of my decks, and it was hilarious. Because it was one of those things where, like, I can't tell you if it was efficient or not, but I knew that the enemy's deck and my deck were filled with nothing but spells. So I threw Lorewalker Cho down, and we just start throwing spells back and forth. It's just super fun. So there's a lot of cards like that that are like very specific that I will never dust. Maybe something, like a Wisp. It's just a 0/1/1 minion. I can't imagine ever being super interested in that card, but anything that has like a unique mechanic, I will never dust.
Hobgoblin deck.
Hobgoblin deck. There we go. That's true. Or what?
That's the thing. You never know.
That's true. You got me there. Yeah, and that's in general why I don't dust things, because if you're ever going to dust something and recraft it, you just lose a ton of value or of dust, right? It's just super inefficient to do that. And I'm under the impression that I will be playing Hearthstone for a long time. I'll be opening these packs for a long time. And the most efficient thing to do is just to never dust things and just keep building up over time. So, all right. But that said, Dustin, I would love to make that list that you asked for. So I'll talk with Scott. I think we're booked out until now, like the end of August. Is maybe the next time we have an open episode. But I'll talk with Scott and maybe try and fit it in there, because I think that'd be really cool. And, dude, I'm excited for this segment. We've never had this segment on the show before, and no one else is going to be as excited about it as I am. The donation segment. So this was cool, because I had someone write in and ask how they could donate to the show. I think it was like 9 months ago now. And so I built a donation site. Nothing ever came in. It was kind of depressing, right? But this week, for whatever reason, we had 2 donations come in for the first time ever. The only other donation we'd gotten was Scott, the other host, gave me $20 one time to buy packs. So I bought packs. But this week, Jamie, who was once again a host on this show last week, he sent in a $30 donation. I suspect it might be a bribe to try and get a rematch against the Demon Warlock Zoo deck that I beat him with last time, but I'm not falling for it. I have more integrity than that, Jamie, but I still took the money. But he actually included a nice note. Obviously, he wasn't trying to bribe. He said, Jamie said, "Thanks again for having me on the podcast, Josh. Why would you resist a cyborg dwarven hug like this? You want it." So I was attached to the Amazon gift code or whatever that got emailed to me. Where right beneath it, you have to hit accept. So I accepted his cyborg dwarven hug. But it was really cool. And this blew my mind. Out of nowhere, Falana, Christine is her real name, gave our first ever Patreon pledge. So Patreon is a site where people can pledge monthly donations, where you basically sign up and then every month you donate a certain amount and you can say how much and change it anytime. So this was our very first one ever. I built this page back in December. Finally on there, Falana's given $5 a month to the show, which is awesome. Thank you very much, Falana. I am happy to read anything the donators say on the show, because, hey, they're helping keep me motivated and get the show done and helping me build cards so I can actually build all these decks that I have to do for the show. So Falana wrote this note, and I wanted to read it in real fast. She said, "Hi, Josh. Happy to be your first patron, and I hope you get many more." Me too, Falana. Me too. The Happy Hearthstone is my favorite gaming podcast by far. You and your guest hosts. Hey, Ryan, that's you, buddy. She's talking about you.
It's awesome.
How's that make you feel? Is that happy?
I feel like a star now.
Yeah, you are. Well, she says you are friendly and informative. She says, I'm a casual player that usually ends up anywhere from rank 15 to 12 at the end of the month. The best rank I've ever achieved is 6, but lost it quickly because I have a hard time tweaking my decks to fit the current ladder conditions. She says, no special requests. Because I said, as the first Patreon pledger or donator, I pretty much said I would do whatever she wanted. I feel like she should have been able to make special requests, right? Should I give her a high five? Should I, I don't know, sing a song? I don't know. But she didn't have any special requests. So I guess thanks for not making me embarrass myself on here by doing anything. But yeah, so Falana, thank you very much. Jamie, thank you guys very much. If you guys want to donate, it's gamediplomat.com/donate. Has all sorts of information about how you can donate to the show and help keep us going. That'd be really awesome. All right, iTunes review, and then we'll get to the best part of the show. I hear guitars will be involved. It's going to be epic. So Don Florion wrote this in Germany. He says, I'm happy because of your podcast. Thank you. And then I am 50% German, and this message is in German.
Oh, do you speak German?
No, I've never once even read or spoken German, but I'm going to right now.
You're going to try? Oh, wunderbar.
So I apologize if I screw this up, but it switches to English halfway through, so I feel like I'm just gonna carry on. Wunderschöner Podcast, der Licht verständlich und erfrischend witzig aufgenommen ist. Ich mag die ruhig und sehr humorvoll. That's it's got to be funny or something, right?
Definitely.
Art Daim Varlik zu anderen Hearthstone Podcast. Nailed it. Duelich, maybe dueling.
Deutschlich, it's German. Deutschlich.
Oh, man. Wait, do you speak German?
Deutschlich Anspanner zu. No, but I can pronounce German stuff.
Okay, why am I doing this?
I know.
Clearly,
well,
you should just be doing this. I take the rest of the review. You got this, right? Redeem us.
Anspanner zu Oren Eats. And Josh, if you read this, let me know if you want a German version of Card of the Week. I cannot sing. I'm switching to Austrian.
I know. It's close. It's in the same area. You got to finish it out, dude.
Oh, I cannot sing. I lost it though. I gotta go. Wunderschön. I cannot sing. I cannot rhyme. But is this really necessary?
Did you wink
Smiley
at the end?
face.
Did you wink?
Winky face.
So, Don Florium, thank you. Brian, I'm just going to call you up every time I read the German iTunes reviews. You're going to have to take over it.
I can do French, Spanish, Russian, German.
Can I make you this show's international ambassador?
Well, I can sound out a lot. Well, I can read Spanish and French.
Okay, yeah, you're okay. So you've already got 2 on me because I took Spanish in high school, so I can read half of Spanish. But you are now the official Happy Hearthstone international ambassador. If anyone listening to this wants to communicate with us in any other language than English, contact Ryan. He'll translate. He'll probably even go to your cultural events and try and represent Happy Hearthstone in a positive manner.
No stereotypes.
No stereotypes, yeah. And you'll do whatever the customs are, I'm sure. All right, do us proud, Ryan, out there. Good luck. We're trying to return once a year and let us know the state of every foreign nation. All right, but before you go out, Ryan, I think I hear a little birdie told me that the Card of the Week song this week is attempting to be the best Card of the Week ever.
Oh, you can't build it up like that. The pressure.
Wait, that was your words, buddy.
I know, but that was in confidence.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But yes, I've listened to many Card of the Week songs. Most are pretty good. Some I'm not going to name names, but you know who you are. You got to bring your A game. But last week especially, Jamie really upped the bar.
Yeah, dude. I do not envy you having to follow that up.
All right, are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is that I hear?
You tell me. Can you hear that?
Yeah,
Does
I
that
can hear
through?
that. Sounds
All right.
good. Yeah.
Alrighty, here we go. Mama was queen of the control, Papa was king of the aggro. Deep down in the tavern, I start playing my first combo. Every patron like to be in my place instead of me, 'cause I'm the king of combo, baby. I'm the king of combo. Come to the big town where there is a lot of clowns, from the tavern to the city looking for a bigger crown. So I play my wombo for the people of big city, but they don't go crazy when I'm banging on that combo. I'm the king of the combo, king of the combo. Come concede when it starts, baby. Card of the week now, card of the week right now.
Okay, bro. I give you the crown. Well done.
Oh, I did it.
You did it. That was because I would like halfway through. I was like, okay, it's gonna wrap it up now. No, you just, dude, you had a whole song prepared. That was incredible.
I had to get to the ending.
Yeah, you gotta. It has to have card of the week in there. That's the only rule that would have disqualified you.
Yep. Well, I knew I had to end with that, but I thought that I would tell the story of a young man learning to play his first combo. It doesn't really apply to the episode, but I thought of it. It's I have to admit, the melody is from a Manu Chao song. I don't know if people know Manu Chao, but it popped into my head that the different deck types rhymed in the song, and so I just changed the words around to describe the Patron Warrior deck.
All right, yeah. I mean, the fact that we had a coming of age story in our card of the week intro is pretty darn good. Well done. All right, so I mean, I'm just gonna let you take over because you've earned it. What is the card of the week, buddy? All
right, card of the week in Arena is Darkscale Healer. 5 mana, 4/5, Battle Cry. Restore 2 health to all friendly characters. This is a card you have probably never seen in Constructed after you hit rank 20, maybe. It's surprisingly good, as your minions will often be damaged from trading, so it's not very difficult to get heal value out of it. I know I said earlier you don't want cards that rely on specific board states, but basically with this card, the worst case scenario is you're paying 1 extra mana for a Healing Chillwind Yeti. So if your other choices aren't better, you shouldn't feel bad about picking her, and you might actually be surprised at how good she can be.
Yeah, especially because you kind of mentioned it in your show. A lot of Arena early on is getting good trades and kind of maintaining board control. And this is like similar to the Cleric that you mentioned that just comes out and surprises. This is, if you have the 4/3 Chillwind Yeti, right, he's damaged, they'll throw down their 3/2 and be like, yeah, trade, I dare you. And then all of a sudden you drop down this and you make it a super efficient trade, and they cry and immediately concede, and then you win and you go 12-0.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I've had Darkscale Healers in my 12-win decks.
Oh, really? Okay, nice. Yeah, I mean, this is actually one of those cards that I've always thought was kind of undervalued, even in Constructed a little bit. In a value sort of deck, like in a zoo sort of deck, I think it is really good. I mean, the effect, like you said, the worst case is you're healing yourself for 2 and getting a 4/5. Pretty good. It's all right. So any other thoughts on Darkscale Healer? It's a weird Naga.
Yeah, just and even if you're starting out, putting her in a Constructed basic deck is a lot of value. I was in a basic card tournament that you can only play with basic cards, and I put Darkscale Healer in all my decks just because she is that good when you're just considering basic cards.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, so I think that's the show. We're going to have full show notes along with links to all the stuff that we talked about, the streamers to watch to learn more about Arena, all the cards, the examples, all of the advice that Ryan gave in here. We'll go ahead and put it all on the site so you can go through his steps 1 by 8, just like I did, and go out there and get your 12-0 victory. All that's going to be on the blog, GameDiplomat.com. You can just click Hearthstone at the top and find all the good stuff there. As always, we'd like to know what you thought of the show and what you'd like to see added in the show for future episodes. You can contact us on Google+, Happy Hearthstone, Twitter, I'm at jaugustine, or you can email me, ajosh@outlook.com, or comment on the blog, GameDiplomat.com. Again, also, if you want to donate and be awesome, like Jamie and Falana were this month, GameDiplomat.com/donate. Ryan, where can people find you if they want to ask you all of their arena questions?
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer questions or take criticism of my anything that you didn't like on the podcast.
That guitar playing was kind of weak,
I haven't played guitar much recently, I'll be honest, but
it actually sounded quite good. I was impressed.
Okay, good. I thought a cappella. I need the rhythm of the guitar to pull that one off.
Yeah. Well, hey, you just stepped the production level up. I mean, if anyone wants to take away your crown now of the best singer on the show, they're gonna have instruments too.
Okay. Well, if someone takes the crown from me, I need to have a chance for a rematch in the future. That's my only request.
I like to believe that 10 years from now, Happy Hearthstone's going to be a show that's actually like a singing competition. Like it's going to be like, what's that a cappella reality TV show?
Oh, you got me there. I have no idea.
Okay. It's where like the college a cappella groups. That's basically what this podcast is going to be 10 years from now.
That's ambitious.
Yeah, you could probably be my host, right? I'll be the nice guy. Could you do a British accent? Because you said you could do French and Spanish.
Indeed.
Okay, good. Then you'll be the jerk that's kind of at the end of the judges' table.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you're fired. That was not a British accent.
Right. Oh, wait. I was going. Oh, what? You what, mate? Depends what part of London you're talking about.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I have not been to every part of London, so.
Did you mean the more proper English, sir?
Perfect. We're also going to be doing My Fair Lady, so we could use that there.
All right, I'm getting loopy now. Sorry. Right. On Twitter @rkivs, the letter RKIVS. I'm not big or important, but I'll follow you back. I guess that's what people do. But yeah, you can ask me questions. And the only thing that I would like to plug is if you like the Happy Hearthstone, check out my Team Captain's new World of Warcraft podcast. It's called Lagging Balls. As in I'm lagging, like you're playing the game, you're lagging. It is a mature podcast, so don't listen to it if you are easily offended. But it is very funny.
Yeah, you mentioned it's him and his wife that do the show together, right?
Yes, yeah, and they've been playing WoW. He's the guild leader. They're in a guild together, so they just kind of talk about the reality of playing the game, and they do like funny little bits and stuff. It's enjoyable. Do they have as many accents as you? They actually do accents, yeah. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm in. So I have not listened to this show. But I like to picture it now as like a World of Warcraft theater where like you're coming on and you're playing 3 different characters maybe. I'm trying to convince them to let me come on and do characters, but they haven't let me yet. Oh, man. All right, well, you let me know if they do, Ryan. I'll start tuning in religiously. Okay. Cool. So where can, is that, I assume that it's just on iTunes people can It's on iTunes. It's what's the other thing people always say, Stitcher. I don't really... I'm pretty sure it's on SoundCloud too if you're listening there, but I listen to it on iTunes. That's probably where. Okay, very cool. Most listens. Awesome. So Ryan, it's been a long show, but thanks for sticking around and helping me get through all this and sharing your arena wisdom with us. My pleasure. I'm sorry I'm so rambly and verbose, but this was a lot of fun, and I'll come back, talk more arena anytime you want. Cool. We will definitely do that. If you guys have questions, listeners, about arena specifically, I mean, again, contact Ryan. You can email it to me. I'll forward it to Ryan too. Because arena is definitely something, like he said, you just kind of learn it as you go. So if you're going through and you're having new questions, let us know and we'll try and get them answered. We can do this together. Woo! Happy Hearthstone. Yeah. So, all right. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks again, everyone, for listening, for visiting the Happy Hearthstone and having a little fun with us. We'll see you next time. The Force will be with you, always.
Thanks for watching the video, everybody. Don't forget to check out all the other podcasts at MMOreporter.com or by clicking on any of the links here. And please check out our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MMOreporter. Thanks, everyone, and see you in game.